Sunny Hostin, her husband accused of committing federal insurance fraud in a lawsuit. Okay, now let's read this. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases. Wow.
You know, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, you know, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance, and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to.
If you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth.
And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out.
Imagine preaching about ethics on national television. Every morning, you wag your finger at systemic failures. You lecture the powerful. You declare yourself the moral compass of the nation. Now, imagine that your spouse is accused of orchestrating a $450 million insurance fraud conspiracy, named alongside nearly 200 defendants in New York's largest RICO case.
Interesting, because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
You know, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart, but captured.
The irony couldn't be sharper. And who's there to point it out? Not your co-host, not the network. It's Joe Rogan, sipping mushroom tea in his podcast studio, casually dismantling Sunny Hostin's entire persona in a blistering monologue that still echoes weeks later. Today, we're diving into how Rogan turned Sunny Hostin's moral high ground into comedy rubble, and what this means for her reputation, her show, and the courtroom drama that's only just begun.
If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. Let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times has she had to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show? And then she also, on Trump's win, calling the loss because of uneducated white women that Trump won.
We have to know that. This is accused.
All accused. Yeah, all accused, but he's in the RICO. This is a big RICO case that her husband's in now.
Just before the holiday season, a lawsuit surfaced alleging that Dr. Emanuel Hostin, Sunny's husband, knowingly billed taxi, Uber, and Lyft driver insurers for unnecessary arthroscopic surgeries and pocketed kickbacks in return. According to court documents obtained by Page 6, the case names nearly 200 defendants in a racketeering and corrupt organization indictment valued at $450 million.
I also hate Joy Behar, so I don't love you, but I also hate that squawking bird, so I hate the whole thing. And frankly, that show, you want to talk about a show that set women back, is The View. You want to talk about that show, if the CIA is engineering, Antifa and fucking the Capitol riot, some crazy misogynist engineered The View, because there's nothing worse than The View. In terms of, like, there are so many brilliant women out there. None of them are on The View. None of them have gone near the set of The View. I mean, they have brought in the lowest tier of the, what is it, the Y chromosome?
No, double
X.
Okay.
Double X. They brought in the lowest of the double X's for that one. It's rough.
These no-fault claims reportedly exploited New York's 1974 insurance system, turning minor injuries into lucrative operations and leaving insurers and ultimately consumers with the bill. Despite the gravity of RICO charges, Sunny's attorney fired back, calling the suit a meritless attempt by a near-bankrupt carrier to intimidate doctors and restrict health care benefits.
This is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest fucking statement. Like, you didn't listen to what I said. Yeah. You didn't listen to what the wildlife out, and that's only a part of what he said.
I can't believe
the other
Joy
part of what he
Behar
said was there was something before that where he was explaining encounters with giant reptiles. And then there's also listen.
It doesn't make sense to me that a middle-aged woman could be dumb.
When you're worried about losing your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is fucking great, and Joe Rogan believes in dragons.
But in a legal battle where innocent until proven guilty meets public perception, rebuttals rarely erase the headlines. And when your spouse's name is linked to one of the largest white-collar cases in state history, you can't just chalk it up to bad paperwork. Yet while Dr. Hostin fights the allegations in court, another fight broke out on a very different stage.
In fairness, though, I mean, The View has to be, if you average out The View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked, and you went on stage with it and just
Sunny Hostin has spent years perched on the righteous throne of The View, dissecting inequality, systemic failures, and cancel culture with the confidence of a Supreme Court justice. She's the voice that told viewers to trust double-checked ABC News, even as she slammed others for spreading misinformation. But it turns out the biggest contradiction was right under her own roof. When you've built your brand on tea-sipping morality and scholarly detachment, the moment your personal life collides with federal indictments, the fall is spectacular.
The View co-host Sunny Hostin's husband, Emanuel Hostin, has been accused of federal insurance fraud. According to a new lawsuit obtained by Page Six, the orthopedic surgeon was one of 200 defendants named in one of the biggest racketeer, influence, and corrupt organization cases ever filed in New York. Emanuel was accused of federal insurance fraud and, quote, getting kickbacks by performing surgery and billing a company that insured taxi companies and Uber and Lyft drivers. According to the documents, he knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services, including arthroscopic surgeries.
Suddenly, every hand-wringing lecture about ethics feels hollow. Suddenly, viewers wonder, if her judgment is so sharp, how did she miss arguably the biggest financial conspiracy in New York's recent history? And while you might expect her co-hosts to rally in solidarity, what happened next was crickets. For a show built on hot takes and headline drama, The View went suspiciously quiet. Whoopi Goldberg offered nothing more than a polite, "We respect everyone's privacy." Joy Behar trotted out her trademark eye rolls without saying a word about the scandal.
I think the problem with that show is that show has this very specific ideological bubble in which they operate in. And they always bring on a token conservative woman, and they yell over her and silence her, and they did that with Meghan McCain, and they did that with what is that other blonde woman from Survivor? Do you remember her, Jamie? She was always yelling. I mean, it's a bizarre show. I think the way before you start, I think the way you described it is brilliant, and the way we should all look at it. Of course, you're going to see race. The idea of being colorblind is ridiculous. But treat everybody. They're just human beings. Yeah. Everybody's just individuals.
And the audience applause track obediently clapped on cue, apparently under a strict do not disturb order. It's a masterclass in damage control. Pretend the controversy doesn't exist, keep smiling, and hope nobody notices your moral high ground has collapsed into a fiscal sinkhole. But when your co-host's husband is facing RICO charges, silence isn't golden. It's a neon sign flashing. We're terrified of being next. And in the world of daytime TV, that kind of fear is more damaging than any outright admission. Unlike The View, there was one guy who didn't hold back, and that guy was Joe Rogan.
The show that people love to hate.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
They get so much hate watching and hate watching viral clips of them saying ridiculous things. I mean, it is a rabies infested hen house.
And that
not really their audience. Their audience is a group of people they bring in to watch television shows. I don't know if you've ever seen audiences before for TV shows, but a lot of them are paid. They're paid to be there. So, because they have to guarantee that there's going to be people there. So there's services that you hire. And when a show gets really, really popular, like Letterman or something like that, obviously it has its own fan base.
Right.
And those people will try to get tickets before anybody else does. And in that case, they probably don't need to use a service anymore. They just get actual fans. But arguably, like, the real fans of The View that are like, oh, these ladies are on point, most of those people can't leave the house.
On his Spotify mega podcast, Joe Rogan wasted zero time. Sunny Hostin's out here wagging fingers about ethics. He cracked, but her husband's allegedly rehearsing his Netflix special, How to Disappear $500 Million Without Blinking. He mocked her ABC News appeal. Trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. Then ripped into the absurdity of moral lectures from someone whose zip code now shares a billing statement with an accused multimillion-dollar fraudster. Rogan's style is twitchy, rapid-fire, and unfiltered. No fancy network lawyers vet his words. If it's funny and it stings, he says it. And in less than 10 minutes, he turned what could have been a niche gossip item into a viral moment. One that not only undercut Sunny's authority, but cemented Rogan's position as the antidote to elite hypocrisy.
Orthopedic surgeon and husband of The View co-host Sunny Hostin is accused in December. Lawsuit fraudulently billing insurance. By the way, this is a Daily Caller story I'm reading. The lawsuit alleges Hostin knowingly provided fraudulent medical and other healthcare services in exchange for kickbacks and or compensation, and names him among nearly 200 defendants in one of New York's largest RICO cases. Wow. Hostin's attorney, Daniel Twites, denies the allegations, calling the lawsuit a meritless attempt by a near-bankrupt insurance carrier to intimidate doctors and restrict healthcare benefits. The case involves claims that Hostin performs unnecessary surgeries on patients after minor accidents without exploring less invasive treatments, with American Transit citing New York's 1974 no-fault law as contributing to widespread insurance fraud.
But it's not just about online clout. There are real stakes here beyond the punchlines. Labeling this a $450 million RICO scam isn't just dramatic flair. It's the threshold for government scrutiny that can freeze assets, expose marital property to claims, and drag spouses into civil suits faster than you can say fraud. If prosecutors and private insurers win, even partially, the Hostins could face asset seizures, hefty fines, and yes, even bankruptcy. Marital asset doctrines mean joint accounts, shared properties, and designer collections could all become evidence. Imagine Sunny's Hamptons brunches interrupted by court orders, or her Louboutins repossessed like bad car payments. Bankruptcy filings often come with humiliating financial disclosures, photos of your half-empty fridge, and credit card statements laid bare on public record. For someone who built a career on polished composure, that kind of exposure is devastating. But there's a wider ripple effect beyond one household. This scandal.
Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television.
Underscores a bigger problem: mainstream media's ideological echo chambers. The View has long been accused of tokenism, inviting a conservative guest only to shout them down, and of operating in a self-reinforcing bubble. Now, that bubble has popped, and viewers are left wondering if they can't spot fraud in their own living room. What else are they missing? Meanwhile, Rogan's podcast audience swells each time the mainstream gets blindsided.
It's always the people that always do the pointing, and it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one. This one takes it over. So he was scamming insurance companies from taxi drivers, Uber drivers, and Lyft drivers. He was performing unnecessary surgeries and then providing fraudulent medical services in exchange for the kickback.
Every silence, every soft shoe PR statement fuels the narrative that big media is disconnected from real accountability. And in an era where trust in institutions is at an all-time low, that's a dangerous place to be. So what's next for Sunny Hostin, The View, and the network that built her platform? Sunny Hostin once commanded millions with her moral megaphone. Now she's fighting to keep that megaphone from being drowned out by subpoenas, asset freezes, and bankruptcy whispers. The View has a choice: confront the scandal head-on or keep hoping it goes away. But as long as Joe Rogan and legions of online critics are pointing, silence won't protect them.
But it's fun to watch. It's just fun to watch them.
It's good entertainment.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
Well, they're just, it's interesting because I think Sunny is very intelligent, but she's ideologically captured.
Right.
That's sort of, I think the other ones, there's a couple of the other ones, don't have to name any names, who are just very dull-minded. But I think Sunny's not one of them. I think she's smart, but captured.
Sure. I think she came into it with an agenda.
Of course. They do everything with an agenda.
Yeah.
What this saga really reveals is that in today's media landscape, authenticity trumps polished virtue. Audiences crave transparency, even when it cuts close to home. And if your personal life can unravel into federal indictments, no network spin or claptrap can save you. If you enjoyed this deep dive, smash that like button, subscribe for more insider breakdowns, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an explosive update. This is Sasha Spills signing off. I'll see you in the next video.